A cancer survivor's voice trembled on AGT. Just when she was about to give up, Dwayne Johnson walked on stage and did something unbelievable. The energy inside America's Got Talent. Live 2025 was electric. Spotlights danced across the massive stage as the cameras zoomed in on a roaring crowd. Every seat in the arena was filled, the air buzzing with anticipation. Fans held their breath, waiting for the next act. But no one, not the judges, not the audience, had any idea they were about to witness something so powerful it would bring millions to tears. Backstage, a 16-year-old girl named Lily stood frozen, gripping the microphone like it was her lifeline. She had dreamed of this moment for years, yet now, standing behind the heavy curtains, doubt crept in. Was she strong enough? Would her voice hold up? The months of chemotherapy had stolen much of her strength, but not her determination. The announcer's voice boomed through the speakers. Next on stage, a fighter, a survivor, a young girl with a dream. Please welcome Lily. A thunderous applause erupted, but Lily barely heard it. Her heart pounded as she stepped into the blinding stage lights. The moment she had fought for was here. As she reached the center of the stage, the music queued up, a soft piano intro to Hallelujah. She gripped the mic, took a deep breath, and opened her mouth. Then, it happened. Her voice cracked. A hushed silence fell over the arena. The judges exchanged concerned glances. Lily struggled to push out the next note, but emotion had tightened her throat. The dream she had waited for was slipping away. But in the very next moment, something no one expected would change everything. Lily gripped the microphone tighter, her pulse racing as she stood under the blinding stage lights. The audience stared, waiting. But she felt like time had frozen. She had prepared for this moment for months, practicing every note, rehearsing every word. Yet standing here now, her body felt heavier than ever. She wasn't just battling nerves. She was battling everything that had tried to break her. At just 16, Lily had already spent more time in hospital rooms than in classrooms. Diagnosed with leukemia at 13, her world had turned into a blur of chemotherapy sessions, hospital beds, and whispered conversations about survival rates. There were nights she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if she'd ever get the chance to live out her dream of singing on a big stage. The treatments had drained her hair, her strength, and at times, even her voice. The doctors had warned her that chemotherapy could damage her vocal cords, but she never let that stop her. She had learned to sing softly in the hospital, humming melodies while hooked up to IV drips, her voice barely a whisper but filled with hope. Music had been her escape, her way of reminding herself that she was still alive, still fighting. Tonight was supposed to be proof that she had won. Her parents had begged her to wait, to recover more before stepping onto this stage. But Lily knew she couldn't. She didn't want to be known as just a cancer survivor. She wanted to be known as a singer, a fighter, a girl who refused to let life decide her fate. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to focus. The stage felt massive, and the thousands of eyes on her made her knees weak. But she had fought tougher battles than this. She had fought for her life. As the first soft piano notes of Hallelujah played, she closed her eyes for a brief second. This was it. No more fear. No more pain. She parted her lips to sing, but as soon as the first note left her mouth, her voice cracked. A ripple of silence spread through the audience. The judges exchanged glances. Lily clenched the microphone, swallowing hard. She wasn't going to let her own body betray her, not now. But no matter how hard she tried, the words wouldn't come out. The moment she had dreamed of was slipping away. And then, something unexpected happened. Lily's throat tightened as the sound of her own broken voice echoed through the massive arena. The microphone trembled in her hand. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing herself to push through. But the words wouldn't come. Her breath hitched, her heart pounded, and suddenly, the dream she had fought so hard for felt impossibly far away. A suffocating silence filled the room. The judges looked at one another, their expressions shifting from encouragement to concern. The audience, which had been buzzing with excitement just moments ago, now sat frozen in anticipation. Thousands of eyes were locked on her, but Lily felt utterly alone. She could hear whispers in the crowd. People were wondering if she could even continue. The thought of failing, not just in front of the judges, but in front of millions watching live, made her chest tighten even more. Backstage, her mother clutched her hands together, her eyes welling with tears. She knew this was Lily's greatest fear, losing her voice when she needed it the most. Her father's grip on his chair tightened, his jaw clenched as if silently willing his daughter to keep going. Lily took a shaky breath, lifting her gaze toward the massive screens displaying her face. Her skin was pale under the bright stage lights, her lips pressed together in a desperate attempt to hold back the emotions bubbling inside her. "You've fought harder battles than this," she reminded herself. "You have survived worse. Don't give up now." She tried again. The music swelled, the familiar melody of Hallelujah carrying through the air like a soft prayer. Lily parted her lips, forcing herself to push through the fear, but again, nothing. Her voice failed her. A lump formed in her throat. The weight of disappointment pressed down on her shoulders. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She had spent months preparing, practicing through pain and exhaustion, convincing herself that this moment would be her victory. But now, standing in front of the world, she felt small, weak, defeated. Tears blurred her vision. She could feel them building, threatening to spill. If she cried now, she knew she wouldn't be able to continue. Her body shook with frustration. Her dream, the one thing that had kept her alive through the darkest days, was slipping away in real time. The audience remained silent, waiting. The judges looked unsure, their hands hovering over the buzzers. If she didn't sing now, this chance would be gone forever. Lily felt herself sinking into panic, and then a deep, familiar voice echoed through the microphone. A murmur spread across the arena as Dwayne Johnson stepped onto the stage. The crowd gasped in shock. Lily blinked through her tears, looking up at him in disbelief. He knelt beside her, his presence calm, steady, strong. He placed a hand on her shoulder and whispered something only she could hear. And in that moment, everything changed. Lily's breath caught in her throat as she turned to see Dwayne Johnson standing beside her. The entire arena fell into a stunned silence. No one had expected this. The judges leaned forward, eyes wide, and even the cameras momentarily hesitated, unsure if this was part of the show. Dwayne knelt beside her, his massive presence somehow radiating warmth rather than intimidation. His hand rested gently on her shoulder, steadying her as if transferring his strength into her trembling frame. He leaned in close and whispered, "You got this. One note at a time. I'm right here." Lily blinked up at him, tears brimming in her eyes. This wasn't just any celebrity standing beside her. It was The Rock, a man known for his resilience, his strength, his ability to overcome. And right now, he was standing with her, believing in her when she was struggling to believe in herself. A murmur spread through the crowd, the tension thick in the air. No one knew what would happen next. Dwayne nodded to the pianist, signaling them to restart the song. As the first delicate notes of Hallelujah filled the air again, Lily took a deep, shaky breath. And then, something unforgettable happened. Dwayne lifted the microphone to his lips and began to sing. His voice, deep and rich, carried through the arena like a warm embrace. The audience gasped. They had never heard him sing like this before. His tone wasn't polished like a professional singer's, but it was raw, powerful, and filled with emotion. Lily stared at him for a moment, stunned, before a small, grateful smile appeared on her face. His voice became a bridge, pulling her back from the edge of her fear. She closed her eyes, took another breath, and then she joined him. The first note came out soft, uncertain, but Dwayne squeezed her hand, reassuring her. She kept going, letting her voice grow stronger with each word. By the time they reached the chorus, her voice had completely transformed. The fear that had gripped her so tightly melted away, replaced by something else. Belief. The audience rose to their feet, many wiping their eyes as they watched this incredible moment unfold. This wasn't just a performance anymore. This was a battle, a victory, a moment that would be remembered forever. The judges were visibly moved. One of them placed a hand over their chest, tears welling up. Another just shook their head in disbelief, whispering, "This is magic." By the final chorus, Lily was singing with everything she had. Her voice soared, carrying all the pain, the struggle, the hope she had held onto for years. And right beside her, Dwayne stood like a guardian, lifting her up when she needed it most. As the final note faded into silence, the arena erupted into the loudest standing ovation of the season. Lily turned to Dwayne, her eyes shining with gratitude. He smiled, wiping a tear from his own eye, and wrapped her in a hug that said everything words couldn't. And in that moment, she wasn't just a cancer survivor. She was a star. The moment their voices blended, something unexplainable filled the air. It wasn't just a song anymore. It was a story of survival, strength, and hope. The audience, already on the edge of their seats, watched in stunned silence as Dwayne Johnson and Lily sang together, their voices carrying through the massive arena like a prayer. Lily, who had struggled to even start, now sang with a voice so full of emotion that it sent chills down the spine of everyone listening. The rawness of her journey was in every note. This was more than just an audition. This was her victory over every moment she thought she wouldn't make it. Dwayne, standing beside her, wasn't just harmonizing. He was lifting her up with every word. His deep, steady tone complemented hers perfectly, giving her the foundation to soar. He wasn't trying to take the spotlight. He wasn't trying to outshine her. He was there to remind her, and the entire world, that she was meant to be here. The second chorus came, and Lily's voice grew even stronger. The girl who had once whispered songs in hospital rooms, too weak to stand, was now standing on the biggest stage in the world, commanding the attention of millions. The cameras zoomed in on her face, eyes closed, lost in the moment, as if she were singing not just for herself, but for every child fighting for their life. And then, something incredible happened. The audience, completely swept away by the moment, began singing along. It started as a few soft voices, then spread like wildfire. Thousands of people in the arena joined in, their voices uniting with Lily and Dwayne's, creating a wave of emotion so powerful that even the judges were left speechless. Tears streamed down faces. Grown men wiped their eyes. Parents held their children closer. It wasn't just about the performance anymore. It was about what it stood for. Backstage, Lily's parents watched in absolute shock. Her mother, who had once prayed for her daughter to survive just one more year, now saw her shining in front of the world. Her father, always her quiet protector, had his head down, shoulders shaking as he cried tears of pride. On stage, Dwayne glanced at Lily, watching her fully embrace the moment. She wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't holding back. She was living. As they reached the final lines, Lily and Dwayne held the last note together, their voices carrying a depth of emotion that no one could have prepared for. And when the music finally faded into silence, there was a brief pause, just a heartbeat of stillness, before the entire arena exploded into the loudest standing ovation of the season. The judges were on their feet. Some clapped, some wiped their eyes, others simply shook their heads, overwhelmed by what they had just witnessed. This wasn't just an audition. This was a moment that would be remembered forever. Lily turned to Dwayne, her hands trembling, and before she could even say a word, he pulled her into a hug. The entire world had just seen her fight, her courage, her heart. And no matter what happened next in the competition, she had already won. The applause shook the entire arena as Lily stood there, breathless, overwhelmed by what had just happened. The judges were still on their feet, some clapping with teary eyes, others simply nodding, trying to process the power of what they had just witnessed. The cameras panned across the crowd, people wiping away tears, holding their hands to their chests, completely moved beyond words. Dwayne still had his arm around Lily, grounding her in the moment. She turned to him, her eyes filled with gratitude and disbelief, as if silently asking, "Did that really just happen?" He smiled down at her, gently squeezing her shoulder. "You were incredible, kid." The host stepped forward, his voice slightly shaky from the emotion in the air. "Ladies and gentlemen, I think we all just witnessed something we'll never forget." The crowd roared again, their cheers echoing across the arena. One of the judges, still visibly emotional, finally found their voice. "Lily, I don't think there are words big enough to describe what you just gave us. You didn't just sing. You showed the world what courage looks like." Another judge nodded, leaning into their microphone. "This wasn't just an audition. This was a miracle." Lily wiped her tears, barely able to speak. Then something even more unexpected happened. Dwayne turned to the judges, took the mic, and said, "She's already won in my eyes." The crowd erupted once more. That night, Lily's performance became the most viral moment in AGT history. But beyond the fame, beyond the headlines, one thing was clear. A young girl who once fought to survive had now touched the hearts of millions.